second part of today's installment of the SportsRap podcast right here on Heat 100 Radio and also live on Facebook in the group page, and having some technical difficulties, so I will get this thing squared away in a few minutes, and I will always, as always, alert you when we come back. But nonetheless, you can hear me here. If you get into the bio, you can get the link and you can tune in. So in the first segment, we talked about the racism in the society, the racism in sports. Talked about Myers Leonard in particular. We also talked about that racial slur that was handed out or dished out by that commentator in that girls' game, and then he tried to blame it on it being a spike in his sugar, which I thought was complete and utter BS. So in this second segment, we're going to move on. We're going to talk some Sixers, and we are definitely going to get into the NCAA bracket because it is March Madness. We had the selection show yesterday, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the bracket and some of the things and how there's a change in somewhat of the landscape of college basketball. And again, we didn't have March Madness last year, so it's a good thing. It's actually one of my more favorite times of the year in sports and being a sports fan. So it's very, very important that we discuss it. Because of the weirdness and the things that have been going on in society, we don't have our full tilt here with these. Just have me here today. And we usually do a full-fledged show on it, but we are definitely going to take some time and talk about the bracket and talk about some of the changes that we have seen in the tournament this year coming up. So first and foremost, to talk Sixers, we all saw what happened going back to the All-Star break with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons being unable to play or participate in the All-Star game due to contact tracing. They came in contact with a barber, and they could not, who tested positive, and they could not participate in the All-Star game. So now we are back up live. I got the glitch fixed, so you can tune in Facebook, the group pages, the SportsRap podcast, so you can get there and get in on this. And they sat out, they came back. Fortunately for us fans, they did not test positive. They had consistent negative test results, which was great. Joel Embiid made his return on Friday against the Wizards, and ultimately at about the 6:20 mark of the third quarter, he landed awkwardly on his left knee, was down in pain for a short period of time, got up, walked off under his own power. Early reports and most recent results, have been confirmed that there was no structural damage in that knee. There's a bone bruise, and he would be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So for him to be reevaluated in 2 weeks is a good thing, if you will, because that means that he will get back into the flow of things anyway. So Ben Simmons made his return yesterday. So without Joel Embiid, the Sixers complete 2 blowouts against Chicago and against the Wizards. Against the Wizards, and then again yesterday against the Spurs in Joel's return. And it looks like the bench is beginning to take a shape of its own, beginning to come to some type of form where you can almost count on some of these guys coming off the bench. Looking at the Sixers' upcoming schedule, the next 9 games. We're looking at the Knicks tomorrow, the Bucks, the Kings as the end of the homestand. Then we go on a tough road trip. We go to the Knicks, to the Warriors, to the Lakers, the Clippers, and Denver. And it's looking like, if everything goes well, Joel could be back. Earliest I'm guessing would be the Lakers game But I'm shooting more towards that Clippers game, if you will, is where I'm really looking more to him returning. But again, like we said, the good news is that he will be able to return. Now, when I posted it, some of my friends, Chuck Bolger, was kind of jokingly saying bye-bye to the MVP. I mean, I can understand that, the way that the politics are set up in the NBA and him missing those games. But it was an injury. I think if he stays the way that he has been, he could still make a run at it, especially if the Sixers stay at the top of the NBA East. I think he can still get back in and make a run at it. And, it looks like the coaching change is doing some things for, the Sixers team. Although we have had a couple games where we should have won, teams that we should have beaten we lost to Cleveland twice. But it's looking like now that this unit, and I'm talking about the family unit of players and coaches in preparations and in practices and in film and things of that nature, are now all beginning to be on the same page, where teams that they should beat, they are beating. Hence the last two games with wins of 20 plus points. In actuality, yesterday's game against the Spurs was the biggest defeat in Spurs history, 35 points. So they are making a point to beat teams that they should beat. And they're beating them, and they're beginning to beat them soundly as we expected them to, or we as fans expected them to. You also have to applaud Tobias Harris, who, again, in my opinion, was snubbed from the All-Star game. And he now has a vendetta, and it's been quoted, and you can look that quote up if you want, where he says that he has a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to show all the teams, the coaches that didn't vote him in, and the media members that kind of downplayed him not getting in. He's going to show. And he said him and Doc Rivers are on the same page. And he told him that Doc is consistently saying to him, well, you make your name in the playoffs. And he's been doing that. He stepped up yesterday, again, leading the team with 24 points. And the other guys are falling in line. I still believe that there will be a move or moves made as we get closer. We are 10 days from the trade deadline ending, from the trade deadline coming. So I still feel like there will be a move or moves made. I just am confident that there won't be a move made just to make a move. If there's going to be a move made, it's going to be well thought out, strategically planned, and it's going to be something to make this team definitely better to go deep into the playoffs, hopefully into a championship run in the playoffs coming up. We are still ahead of Brooklyn. We're still ahead of Milwaukee. And you look at these three teams, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Nets. The Nets have, just recently signed Brad and Blake Griffin. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they asked me how did I feel about the Nets getting Blake Griffin. I said, as I have been saying all season long, even before the Nets got James Harden, when they were pegged with Kyrie and KD to be the leaders of the East, and the Sixers have been that for months now. I think I haven't looked at the full tilt, but I think we might have one more game against the Nets, so I think we might have won that series against the Nets. And don't give me the sometimes when would be the last time we beat the Nets, KD and Kyrie did not play. They only had James Harden. That's not our issue, because if you look at it, we lost to the Nets without any of them. So before they made the trade for Harden. So you can't really blame it on that. But getting back to the Blake issue, I know that Blake is not the same Blake coming that he was when he came into the league. He is on a downside, and maybe he can help them in rebounding. Maybe he can help them with some defense. But it's just a known fact that they play poor defense overall as a unit. And yeah, Brad, a win is a win, absolutely. And their defense just does not scare me. And what the conversation I had the other day, and when I was asked about Blake Griffin, I said it depends on what he can give them on a consistent basis. It also is going to boil down to the two guards who both need the ball in their hands. And I'm speaking of Kyrie Irving and James Harden. I removed KD from that situation because I know KD can get his, and it's not an issue of him having the ball in his hands to be dominant. But watching as much NBA as I have and knowing what I know about those two guys, players in particular, those are guys that are ball dominant. And it is going to take one of those guys to seriously humble himself down the stretch to see how that plays out. But again, I still say that they don't scare me because the Sixers play defense and the Nets don't play that great defense. Sixers defense is better. Bradley Day, again, chimed in. He says, think the Sixers can make it to the finals, but need to stay healthy in order to do it. Absolutely. And, again, the big scare Friday, and we got over that scare immediately. So it was like by late Saturday night, very early Saturday morning, it was put out that there was no structural damage, which was some of the greatest news that you could have if you saw the way that played out. All in all, in that play, I think that there should have been a foul called on that play as well. But there's nothing I can do about it now. I can just tell you how I feel about it, but it wasn't a foul call. And it was just all his weight went down on that knee. Another hyperextend, but he has a bone bruise. So he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And like I said, I think with where I'm looking at, and I looked at the schedule, the next 8 or 9 games in projection, on the road, it's going to be tough because we got the first games coming up on the road after the 3 remaining at home are the Knicks, the Warriors, and the Lakers. The toughest game within the next 3, I think, is going to be the Bucks game. And that's, I think, a game that we really are going to need. Obviously, Joel will probably more than likely not be in that game, but we're going to need the other guys to step up. I like the way that Ben Simmons played yesterday in his return, so hopefully that will continue. And again, I'm liking what Tobias is doing as a leader. Danny Green played a great game yesterday. Seth Curry is looking like he's getting his legs back under him and is performing like the Seth Curry that we thought we got in the trade. So I think they can sustain, especially with the coaching staff. They do get a little bit of help back from the G League and Paul Reed, Isaiah Joe, and Rajon Tucker. And just quickly, shout out to the Delaware Bluecoats. Shout out to my guys, Joe Richmond and Matt Murphy. Hell of a job that you guys are doing down there in Delaware with that G League affiliate. This season in the bubble, they made it to their first postseason ever and their first finals ever. So that's, in my opinion, a hell of an accomplishment on their end to make their first playoff appearance and then proceed that into their first finals appearance. So shout out to those guys down there and everyone that was on that team who played and got them in that position to win and get to the finals in the G League. But again, you're going to get some help back, and that playing has those guys in a rhythm. Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed, who played amazing in the bubble, and that has them in some rhythm coming back. But they're very young, So you still need some help along the way to make this deep playoff run. And again, I have trust in Morey, and I think that something's going to be done. But again, like I said, I don't think it's going to be something that's just going to be a move because it's out there that they're allegedly looking to make a move or something. It's going to be something, like I said, well thought out, well planned, and very strategic to make the best of it, to get this team in the best position to pursue that championship. As far as trade rumors and things of that nature with the Philadelphia 76ers, there's been a lot of rumors. Names have changed from week to week, from day to day. There has been a lot of talk about PJ Tucker. And, it was a lot of executives saying or believing that either via a trade or buyout that they felt like PJ Tucker would end up with the Sixers. There are other team names that have come up in the mix as well. I saw something this morning where it was talk that Houston might now want more than what they initially it was alleged that PJ Tucker could have been had in a trade for a second round pick. And I think because of the way things played out with the Sixers and their conversations with the James Harden issue or the James Harden trade, that now Houston is saying that they want some young players in return, which might not be the move. But they have also agreed to part ways with PJ Tucker, who hasn't been playing. And that's the new thing now in the NBA. He hasn't been playing. So he has played his last minutes in a Houston Rockets uniform. It's just a matter of if they can move him in a trade or will they end up having to buy him out. The other name that we saw, the most prominent name, was the Kyle Lowry. That would be a tough one because of the salary and what would probably have to be moved and what Toronto may ask for in return. Maybe, some things that the Sixers right now will not want to part with as far as their young talent. There has been, the most recent name was Will Barton of the Denver Nuggets, who could possibly be had. There's also George Hill, the line right. So there have been names floating around that could possibly come in and help. And just real quick, things that possibly could be needed. They say an archetype or a shot creator. And I'm just going to go through this fairly quickly. At the high end, they have Kyle Lowry as the main name there. And then they have some realistic targets in George Hill, who I like, Patty Mills, who I like. And these are guys that could be realistically had by the Sixers without having to move too many of their intricate pieces. Bradley chimes in. He says, we have to contain Giannis, and I think it could make a difference in the game. Yes. The Bucks don't scare me either, Brad, really. I understand they made an improvement and got Drew Holiday, which was a good pickup for them, a solid pickup for them. But they still don't really scare me, especially the way the Sixers are playing right now. A stretch big for the Sixers, and they're saying that the high end is PJ Tucker, and we just mentioned about that. Some other names at the time were Nemanja Bjelica, Mike Muscala, Ersan Ilyasova, whose name can now be taken off because he has just recently signed with the Utah Jazz. A two-way wing, and most of the execs are saying that there's not one that does exist, but they're saying that a realistic target could be Terrence Ross of the Orlando Magic, who have suffered a plethora of injuries, and we definitely don't know how their season is going to play out down the stretch. But again, they have some realistic targets, and I'm sure they are in conversations with some teams. And we'll see what happens. But again, like I said, you can kind of take this with a grain of salt, and you can just listen to me and feel it the way I feel it. I think a move is going to be made, but again, it's going to be the right move. Like I said, it's going to be well thought out, well and strategically planned to make an improvement on this team to push us deep into the playoffs. So Sixers return to action tomorrow night at home against the New York Knicks, the surging New York Knicks. But again, with what I saw in the last two games from the Sixers team, I say a winnable game as well. Like I said, I just want to get to that Bucks game because I think that Bucks game is going to be kind of a gauge where we are. And again, folks, don't forget, Joel Embiid is not lost for the season. We have a tough stretch, but we also have winnable games in that stretch before he makes his return. So we'll see how it plays out. Now, moving on, again, like I mentioned, one of my favorite times of the year in regards to sports, March Madness is back with us. And again, we didn't have March Madness last year due to COVID-19, but we have it again this year. And there have been some major changes within this season, where there are some teams, some prominent names who, like we like to say, are not dancing this year. If you haven't seen the bracket, I posted it, but the bracket is out yesterday. Yesterday was Selection Sunday, and there's no Kentucky, which is usually a mainstay in the NCAA tournament. Teams with reputations and names of consistently being in the tournament had to fight again, and hence my favorite college team, North Carolina. They had to make a move. They had to make some strides late in the season and in that ACC tournament to get in, and they luckily got into number 8 seed. Two local teams that got in, Villanova and Drexel. Drexel as a 16th seed because they won their conference. Villanova had a little shaky moment where there was concern that they could possibly not get in. So this is what I say when I mean the disparity and how things have changed. The 4 number 1 seeds this year, Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Illinois. It's been a while since we've heard from Illinois. And great season for them, 23-6, and they make it in as a number 1 seed as well. It's just strange. It's this year in college basketball. It's just been a strange year. And with everything going on, they even have replacement teams, or had replacement teams. They had 4 replacement teams in the event that some team got some COVID issues and couldn't participate. Those replacement teams were Louisville, Colorado State, St. Louis, and Ole Miss. They have their first 4 once again, which was instituted a few years back. So in that first 4, and these games will be played on Thursday, you have Norfolk State and Appalachian State playing for the 16 seed to go into the big pool and play against Gonzaga. You have Wichita State and Drake playing for the 11th seed to face off against USC. Then you have Michigan State, another name that's usually in the big picture in a play-in game, against UCLA, another name that's usually in the mix. Both of those playing for an 11th seed to go up against BYU. And then you have Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern playing for the 16th seed to go up against Michigan in the official first round of the NCAA tournament. So I was asked by a friend, and shout out to Chris Adams, who's always tuned times in and asked me questions about stuff that I post and things all along. He asked me, who did I like to win it? And right now, like I said, it usually takes me a day or two to really get into it, because I have to take my time and look at who's playing, and take my knowledge of what these teams have done throughout the season to see. But I did mention to watch out for Gonzaga and Baylor. I'm very confident in Baylor. I've seen them a little bit more than I've seen Illinois and Gonzaga. I am pulling for Michigan to go deep because of their situation with them hiring Juwan Howard, a member of the Fab Five, alumni of Michigan, and he's got them right back in. So I'm fan base pulling for them. Of course, I'm pulling for North Carolina, but I don't know if we win. I think they can beat Wisconsin in the first round, but it's going to be tough. I don't think they can get past Baylor, and I'm just being brutally honest. I would love to see them get past Baylor, but again, I've seen Baylor on several occasions, and I don't think with the season that they had, I don't think that they can get through. But we know the NCAA tournament. Anything can happen on any given night or any given day. Georgetown, shout outs to them. They got in as a 12 seed. Shout outs to Patrick Ewing, who won the Big East at Georgetown. So shout outs to him. So there's another fan favorite. There are some other teams that are playing well. Shout outs again to Chris Adams. His team, Syracuse, is in. And then you have the other teams that usually get in. Sometimes they make some noise, and then they start to fizzle out when the competition gets a little tougher. And we all know that these are all one and dones. So it's not like the NBA playoffs where you have a series. They're all one and done. You've got Southern Cal, who made a statement to get back in. And like I said, there's no Kentucky, who is usually a mainstay for the NCAA tournament. You look at what I said to you in the first four. Now, these are teams that are playing to get into the main bracket. You got Michigan State and UCLA playing against each other to get in. You also have Wichita State, who usually is in the mix somewhere. They're in a play-in game to get in. Okay? So, there's been a change, if you will, with the landscape of the NCAA. And some of it was due to COVID, and some of it was due to the talent level that some of these schools were used to was not as high as it was this year. So, again, we look at this term. Like I said, we had the selection show last night. I actually have the bracket in front of me right now. But it's going to take me a day or two, to fizzle through and see how I like these teams. Again, but I do say, although I have not seen much of Gonzaga, they ended their regular season 26-0, so they're definitely a team to watch. I saw Baylor 22-2, definitely a team to watch with their size and their coaching. So they are definitely a team to watch. Haven't seen much of Illinois, but again, they made a number one seed, so they are a team to watch. And Michigan, I saw some of them. And like I said, I love what Juwan Howard has done at the University of Michigan. So kudos to him again once more. So again, of course, the number one seeds are your teams to watch. With their most recent past history, I look at Villanova as a team to watch. As I'm going through, Arkansas is a team that you can keep your eye on. Florida State, Oregon, Kansas has got in, and you can always keep your eye on them. Connecticut, Maryland was playing some good ball down the stretch. Alabama, a number 2 seed. Surprisingly, Houston, also a number 2 seed. So it's going to take me a little bit, to really, really sit down and get through this bracket. Like I said, it was just put out yesterday. So I have to take my time because I want to do my homework and I want to get this thing right in my own eyes and make myself as comfortable as I possibly can with going through these brackets. And again, two local teams, Villanova and Drexel, shout outs to them for getting in. And it's just a matter of bringing your A game, folks. We all know the excitement of the NCAA tournament, and I am super excited, like I said, because we missed it last year, and it's back this year. And I'm actually super excited because some of those, the way it played out towards the end of the season, where it was looking like there were going to be more big name teams who usually get in that weren't in. Like I said, I keep saying Kentucky is not in. There was some talk that possibly North Carolina didn't get in. I'm looking. I don't see Duke, but I also reported that Duke had some COVID issues and that their athletic director said that their season was over. But then there was a report that they might play if they get in. But I am I'm looking over this very slowly, and I don't see Duke on here. So there's two big names that are usually in the mix that are not in the mix right now, and that's Duke and Kentucky. Again, it's really been a strange year for college basketball, and then there has been some carryover from COVID-19. But like I said, some of these schools that are usual mainstays with their talent level just wasn't where it usually is this year. And again, like I keep saying, it shows. Duke, Kentucky, talent levels were not there. North Carolina also can be put in that the expected talent level was not where they're used to it being, but they fought and got in late. So it's going to be very interesting. Like I said, things start up on March 18th, which is 15, which is I think Thursday, for these play-in games, and they call it the first four now. And again, those are Norfolk State and Appalachian State, Wichita State, Drake, Michigan State, UCLA, who were the biggest two names in the first four, and then Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern. So, excuse me, it's going to be fun. It's going to be naturally fun just to get back into having an NCAA tournament in March. But it's going to be fun because, as always, there are going to be teams that you really don't know much about, that you really haven't seen as far as a fan, that will come in and surprise you and surprise some of these other teams as well. Another team, I think I mentioned them already. Oregon was a team to watch. I mean, look, Grand Canyon is in at a number 15 seed. You got LSU into the tournament. UNC Greensboro has been in for a while. Teams that are looks like newcomers. Abilene Christian, Oral Roberts, Eastern Washington. Rutgers is in. So that's another somewhat local team that's in that I missed in my looking over this bracket. Colgate. So there are teams, North Texas. There are teams that you will want to take a peek at. And obviously, they're in for a reason. And again, like I said, this is what makes it exciting, because some of those teams that I've just named are teams that a lot of people probably have not seen on the national stage, but you will see them very soon on the national stage in this tournament. So again, the first four is March 18th, and the official first round of the 2021 NCAA tournament begins on March 20th in the first round. So you know how to find that. There'll be games on all day. Unfortunately for some of the ladies, some of those soap operas will be cut out because of the time frames of these games, and you know how it is. There'll be games on starting at 12 o'clock, and they'll go up until the evening, to the early evening, or until like 9, 10 o'clock at night on most nights. But it's going to be fun. It is definitely going to be a fun ride to get back into this NCAA tournament. And as always, I will keep you posted on the updates as I get them, as this proceeds. Like I said, I will have the scores and I will update brackets as they proceed through. And it's just going to be fun for the next week or 2 weeks, to see who comes out on top. And we'll definitely be watching. Like I said, but two teams that I know to keep your eye on, and because I've seen their play. Not so much Gonzaga, but I mean, they ended the season 26-0. They're undefeated. Michigan and Baylor. Like I said, Baylor is a team that I really think has a very, very strong chance of going super deep, possibly making it to the championship game and winning it all, because they have size, strength, and coaching, and their talent level is one that's there. So we'll definitely keep an eye on them and see how this thing plays out. Right now, it's 12:29, 29 minutes past the noontime hour. I'm going to end a little short today because I've covered everything that I needed to cover today. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. Again, Sixers return to action tomorrow against the New York Knicks. And right now I'm going to give you schedules for today for NBA, NHL, and spring training baseball once again. So we're going to start with the NBA. We have the Bucks facing off against the Wizards, the Kings and the Hornets, the Spurs and the Pistons, the Knicks in the Subway Series against the Nets. The Clippers are at the Mavericks. The Pacers are at the Nuggets. The Grizzlies are at the Suns. And the Suns, by the way, have moved up to number 2 in the Western Conference standings. The Lakers have bounced down to number 3. The Clippers are now number 4. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that plays out. And finally, the Lakers are at the Warriors. In the NHL, we have the Islanders are at the Capitals. The Predators are at the Lightning. The Flyers face off against the Rangers. The Bruins and the Penguins go at it. The Blackhawks and the Panthers. The Canucks are at the Senators. The Capitals are in Buffalo to face the Sabres. The Canadiens go up against the Jets. The Oilers and the Flames go at it. The Sharks are in Vegas going up against the Golden Knights. And the St. Louis Blues are in LA to go against the Kings. In spring training baseball, the Phillies will play the Yankees, the Pirates and the Orioles, the Twins and the Braves, the Marlins and the Astros, the Nationals and the Cardinals, the Blue Jays and Tigers, Red Sox and the Rays. The A's face off against the Indians, the Cubs and the White Sox. The Giants are against the Royals. The Reds face off against the Angels. The Padres and the Brewers go at it. The Diamondbacks and the Mariners. And finally, the Dodgers will play the Colorado Rockies. Those are your schedules and your games for tonight. Again, Sixers tomorrow. Then Thursday, we have the first 4 to begin the NCAA tournament. As always, folks, you know where to find me. SportsRap, at SportsRap_D on Instagram and Twitter. The group page where I am live right now, SportsRap Podcast on Facebook. You can also get me on iHeart, Google, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Just search the SportsRap Podcast, and you will get feeds of our show if you miss it. You can also check out the webpage, sportsrapradio.com. And please go to the bio on Instagram and on Facebook, group description. Get that link. Chime in to Heat 100 Radio. Sign up so you get everything that's going on with myself, my partners here on Sports Rap, The Morning Rush, and everything Heat 100 Radio. There are a lot of mixes that you can listen to that will keep you grooving throughout the day and the evening. And you'll be able to see what's going on with us all the time. Enjoy your day, folks. It's Monday, the beginning of the work week. 43 and clear today. Weather is warming up. It's going to warm up towards the end of next week. So be prepared for that. And as always, be great on purpose. And I will see you all week on social media and right back here next week, live, 11 a.m. SportsRap. It's your boy D. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for everyone that commented and chimed in. And we'll see you next week. Thank you all.